So hello, my name is Jeff Trayman. I'm the founder and executive chairman of Auddia. A little bit about my background. I'm a serial entrepreneur and an inventor. I've been the named inventor on somewhere north of 130 patents, and I've taken 6 companies from zero to exit. 2 I sold to public companies, 3 to private equities, and 1 to a private company. I went to the military academy at West Point. After a short stint in the Army, I decided to go into the medicine, went to Cornell Med on the Upper East Side of New York City, and then out to Phoenix, Arizona, where I did my neurosurgical residency. I then started my neurosurgical practice in Boulder, Colorado, where I live now and where Auddia is headquartered. I got out of neurosurgery in 2008 when I invented a new way to fuse the spine together and built a big medical device company around that I sold to a public company. So I wound up getting into Auddia, which is a technology company really focused on reinventing how consumers interact with audio, really the same way I got into all my other companies. It was coming up with some ideas, filing some patents, and then building the technology. So I'm going to walk you through that story today. This is our standard disclaimer statement. It goes over the risks associated with forward-looking statements that we'll be using in this presentation. So as I mentioned, Auddia is a technology company. We're looking to reinvent how consumers engage with audio, and we're doing that through 2 apps. One is the Fader app, and the other is the Vodacast app. With Fader, we're addressing the AM/FM radio space, and with Vodacast, we're addressing the podcast space. But in both situations, we're following the same kind of playbook. And what we're doing is we're giving consumers a better experience. We're giving the content creators a way to make more money, and we're addressing large markets. So with Fader, I mentioned we're addressing the AM/FM radio space, and a lot of people don't know this, but AM/FM radio is still the 800-pound gorilla when it comes to time spent listening. So the better user experience that we're providing is we're giving people the opportunity to listen to AM/FM radio stations for the first time where they have complete control over the listening experience. What that means is they can avoid commercials. And if radio puts something in front of you that you don't like, you can simply skip that and get something else. The radio stations can make about 2x revenue on our subscription model than they can on the ad revenue model that they currently have. And we're looking at 2 really big markets. One is folks that are primarily radio listeners today. There's about 220 million people still tuning in every month to AM/FM radio. And we're also addressing the 141 million people who are audio subscribers. These are people that aren't interested in listening to ads. They've already moved away from radio for the most part and are on Pandora, Spotify, and some of those other platforms. With Vodacast, what we're bringing to the table for the consumers is a better way to engage with the podcast. So right now, podcasts are audio only. And with the Vodacast app, consumers will be able to interact with a digital feed that correlates with that audio and go deeper with the content. They'll also be able to consume commercial-free just by simply making a micro payment. So these are the 2 big things we're bringing to the table on podcasting. For the podcasters themselves, we're bringing an opportunity to make more money through the digital ad revenue they can get through that feed, and also from subscription revenue. And we're addressing, again, large markets, 116 million folks that are currently listening to podcasting. So I'm going to go over Fader in detail first, and then I'll flip over to Vodacast. So with Fader, again, we're addressing the AM/FM radio space, and this gives you an idea how much listening time people are spending on radio still, and the size of the reach that AM/FM radio still has. But they, of course, have a monster problem, and it's this 16 minutes of ads every hour that people just simply can't tolerate. So one of the big problems with radio is they have this local content that you really want to consume, but they have no way to deliver it to you in a way that consumers have come to expect, and that is in a premium environment where they can pay a subscription and they can have complete control over what content they listen to include avoiding all the commercials. So this is really the problem we're addressing with our Fader solution. So you can connect to any AM/FM streaming station that's out there. Our artificial intelligence platform identifies any of the interruptions that you don't like. So if it's commercials, it understands that and it switches you to an alternative piece of content while those commercials are playing. So on a music station, that would just be music. So seamlessly, you continue to hear music. You never even hear the commercial interruption. But we also allow the high value local content to play through. This is the DJs talking about various things that are happening in the community, potentially festivals and concerts that are coming into town, things that you might be interested in listening to. And then we allow the consumer to have complete control by switching at any time. You can program routines. That would be if you're going in your car to drive to work every morning, you might want to hear a bit about the traffic, a bit about the weather, and then get into the game last night and then switch over to the actual station. All of this we provide within the Fader solution. As far as the competition, we look at the competition as with two groups. So if you look at the bottom four groups here, one of these is radio, but the other three are all radio station aggregators. These are streaming players. And one of the big advantages we have over all of them is none of these three, TuneIn, Odyssey, or iHeart, has been able to replicate the radio dial. We're the first streaming platform that's been able to do that. And what that means is we have every radio station that streams available. TuneIn has to cut some out. Odyssey doesn't have iHeart. iHeart doesn't have Odyssey. There's that kind of thing dancing around, which doesn't really help the consumer. So we're the first ones to solve that problem. And then obviously these platforms all have that local content that radio has, but none of them allow the consumer to listen to it in a personalized, ad-free manner where they have complete control over what they're listening to. So that's our big advantage in that space. If you then move up to the other players, these are the music players. They're different than radio, right? They don't have any local content. They're not talking about what's going on in the community. It's really playlists. It's song after song after song. And that's what you're getting. That's what you're getting here. Of course, these are all ad-free. You can personalize the content completely, but you don't get any of that local content. So we fill the void with our technology. This slide gives you an overview of exactly what we're doing. So what I'm showing here is this public stream that's available, and your phone connects to this public stream and it's playing along, and then it gets to an ad break. What our AI does is it identifies that this ad break is playing, so it switches you over, and we have a Fader DJ that can make an announcement that, hey, your favorite station's on an ad break. We're going to deliver you some other content, and then we can give you some choices. Things like just music can play, or we can let you choose different types of news that you might be interested in, comedy segments. We have this Discover program, which is about independent artists that in your community that you might want to discover. We can have audio versions of your Twitter feed. And you can see we can build this out with more and more content that might be interesting to consumers. And then we return you back to the station at the beginning of a piece of content that is not a commercial. And then you continue to listen to the station. If they put something in front of you you don't like, you just simply skip it manually, and the process repeats itself, and we bring you back to that station. So all of this is covered by broad intellectual property. We were very early on applying for patents leveraging AI technologies against the streaming and broadcast audio. So we have a good position here that would be difficult to compete against. And now the market opportunity I already mentioned. We're going after the 220 million radio listeners that are out there, and the folks that have already raised their hand and are paying for a subscription that might be interested in coming back to radio if they can get it in that premium environment. So we've done some marketing studies, a survey with the Harris polling folks to see how many people would be interested in purchasing this. So we broke the groups up into those who identified as radio listeners on the top here, and we asked them how likely they would be to purchase this product. 15% that said they would be very or extremely likely to purchase. On the other side, it was people who were already paying for an audio subscription, and there we had 25% of those people said they were very or extremely likely to purchase. So overall, when you apply that to the size of those markets, you can see that there's a pretty big opportunity of folks that have expressed an interest. So as part of that study, we did a Van Westendorp pricing analysis to find out how much they would pay. And we came out with two price points. One price point is to optimize market share, and that was about $8. The other price point was to optimize revenue, and that came out to about $12. And where we are right now, obviously, or where we are with the product right now is everybody's getting a free trial. We're about to convert over to subscription, so we'll be starting all the way on the left here on this graph, and then starting to convert people. And we'll slowly work our way up to this $8 market share pricing. Once we've optimized market share, then we will start moving up to the $12 pricing to optimize revenue. So we wound up launching the product in February 15th of this past year. We launched with 4,500 stations. We've now expanded that to 5,200 stations. When we did the launch, we said that we would report on results in 90 days, and that our targets at the end of Q2 were to reach a cost per install of $5 and achieve 10,000 monthly active users and 50,000 installs. And you can see these are our 90-day results that we put out in mid-May. And we showed that we were able to hit a cost per install rate of $3.31 and have 30,000 monthly active users on 42,000 installs. So we were really, really far ahead of all metrics that we were hoping to get. And this was really, really important information for the company, because this is the first time we went in front of consumers. And anytime you launch a consumer app, if you get crickets back from the consumer, that's a big problem. It's really fatal. It's hard to recover from. And so this data here clearly shows that consumers hear the message. They are attracted to the message, they go and they install the app and they use it. So what we're going to be doing from here is continuing our strategy of growing our audience, but we're going to start reporting on our MAU growth. So how many users do we have every month? How is that growing? We're going to start putting data out about initial usage, and then we're going to talk about subscription conversions. And we're hoping to do that sometime in Q3 so that we can put out revenue guidance for the first time for 2023 in our third quarter Q. So as we do this march of switching over from a free version to a subscription, a lot of this has to correlate with where we are with the product. So when we did launch on February 15th, we only had the music stations enabled with our AI. We didn't have the News Talk sports stations. What we've done since then is we've added the fader DJ, which is a really important component of the listening experience. And we're gonna put in the News Talk and sports stations by the end of Q2. And when we do that with the News Talk sports stations, we're also going to get an improvement in our music stations. And the reason we had to layer it in like this is the AI, if you think about it, it's much easier for the AI to identify something that's music and not music versus a DJ talking in a commercial. So we need more data to train the algorithm on understanding the difference between a DJ talking and a commercial. So that additional data is going in now, and it'll be ready to be put into the product by the end of Q2. So then we're going to also add in all these additional content choices. We already talked about the Discover Artists program. We're going to be able to integrate podcasts into the platform, just like Spotify and Apple do, where they have not only the music player, but they also have the podcast capability. We have a Vodacast platform that I'm going to go over next. And then we're going to put in on-demand content and also introduce these micropayments capabilities. And the micropayment capability is a super important thing. We're going to be introducing it as a trial on both our Fader app and on our Vodacast app, but it's really extensible out to video and onto text. So it's designed to solve for that problem when you're Googling for an article, let's say online, and you read the first paragraph, and then all of a sudden you're required to do a subscription. Here with our micropayments fintech play, you just basically hit the icon, and you'll be able to make a micropayment of 25 cents and consume that article. And we're hoping to do the same thing with video subscriptions, which are kind of getting out of hand as well. So this kind of wraps up the discussion about Fader, and now I'm going to move into a discussion about our podcasting platform, which is called Vodacast. Tagline here is immersive podcasting. because we're trying to move beyond what podcasting is today into the next level. I mean, we're really right now at podcasting, we're at podcast 1.0. I mean, all these podcast players, you basically just play your podcast and that's it. There's no real interactivity. There's nothing else you can do. And we're bringing a lot of that to the table. So we're going after podcasting essentially because of the size of the opportunity. It's the fastest growing segment within audio. The ad revenue is approaching $1 billion. There's 116 monthly podcast listeners, and they're rapidly growing, but you just don't have this interactivity and these capabilities to move forward. And that's really where we see ourselves playing a major role. So we're coming into this rapidly growing space. It's early, and you see all the big players are actually, there's a ton of M&A activity, and everybody's trying to kind of figure out their positioning. So we think this is kind of the end stages of podcasting 1.0. And the next stage is really going to be expanding the audiences and letting the audiences do more, letting the podcasters do more. And that's where we're positioning ourselves. So with the Vodacast app, the first thing we bring to the table is this digital content feed. And you can see that in the first image of the phone here at the top screen. That's actually an image from a content feed for this podcast. It scrolls horizontally across with time, or you can do it manually and if you do it with time, it just correlates with whatever the podcaster is talking about. This prevents people from having to go out and Google stuff about the podcast afterwards. And when podcasters are researching their shows, they're finding all kinds of content. They're finding images, video, text, but they have no place to put it. So we've built this piece of software called the Hub that tags all of that, allows the podcaster to automatically sync it to the audio to provide this feed. Now, if you can drive eyeballs to this feed, well, then you can sell digital revenue into there. So that's what we're bringing to the table with this feed. On the other thing we're bringing to the table is we're letting the podcasters create their own brand experience within the podcast player. So they're able to develop a relationship with their consumers, which they really can't do today through the podcast player. And we're doing that through special features that we're bringing in, like being able to run polls, selling your merchandise. You can provide notifications to your audience. There can be social discussions going out. You can have your tour dates. And you can see on the top here, right underneath the podcast, you have a talkback capability and the ability to provide tips. So all of these things kind of bond the podcaster to their audience, allow them to start conversations. And we really look at this as an on-ramp to social feeds and discussions and the ability to share and discover additional content. In addition to the digital ads, we have a bunch of other payment options, particularly those micropayments, and you can see that here. These are all the revenue opportunities we bring to podcasters. I talked about the digital ads already in the feed. Those represent about a 25% increase on the current CPM that podcasters can get on their ad model. We're going to allow them to put any content behind a subscription paywall, which can be a 2 to 3 time increase over their ad revenue. And these micropayments is something unique that we're bringing to the table through this fintech play that we hope extends beyond just podcasting and Fader, and then into text and video. But with these micropayments, if you run into a podcast, you're not a subscriber, you want to listen to an episode, you don't want to consume the audio commercial, and you don't want to take your phone out and keep skipping through it, you can just make a simple 25-cent micropayment, which is about a 5x increase over what the podcaster will get on a single view from their ad revenue model. So that provides a lot of flexibility for the podcaster and the user. We're going to have donations, and we're going to let the podcasters keep 100% of that. And ultimately, we want to get to this ad marketplace where advertisers who want to buy their audio ads on podcasts, but also want a synced digital ad in that digital feed to get some feedback on how their advertising is doing, they'll be able to buy that in this marketplace, and that'll cut out the 30% commissions that podcasters currently have to pay to the ad sales teams. So here's a competition slide, and if you looked at this a year ago, there wouldn't be anybody on it because nobody was really doing anything except just being players. Now you have Apple Podcasts fooling around with some brand pages, and you have Spotify doing a little bit of comments. But nobody's really looking at this holistically. And I will tell you that both Apple and Spotify have now introduced subscriptions. But here's a big difference between us and everybody else in the space. Apple and Spotify are forcing the podcasters to set up an entirely separate hosting capability with Apple and with Spotify, in addition to their standard hosting, to be able to put something behind a paywall. And the reason they're doing that is because Spotify and Apple want to control the customer relationship. They don't want the podcaster to know who is paying for their podcast. So they can't develop that relationship. They can't even get the data. Where we're completely different in this space is we have an open platform. We're here for the podcasters and we're here for the consumers. So when they put something behind a subscription paywall here, everything we're doing is about understanding who they are, getting that data, developing a relationship with those subscribers. And we think that's going to be our big positioning in this space, as this open platform allows podcasters and consumers to get more out of podcasting, kind of migrate to this podcast 2.0 capability. So our go-to-market strategy here is very similar to what we're doing on Fader. We're just using digital channels to build the audience so we can test out all of these features that we're building, get that optimized, and then do a big marketing push behind Vodacast. So one of the big things we wanted to do is really figure out, do people go to these digital content feeds and do they spend time there? Because that's a key part of our monetization strategy. So we went out, spent a little money on digital advertising to drive some users. We have it up to about almost 4,000 monthly actives right now. And what we're really looking to do here is understand, did people go to this feed? And what we found is 94% of the people that went to a podcast that had a feed engaged with the feed. And 30% of them spent over 50% of the time, went through more than 50% of the content in that feed. So these are really solid numbers to start talking about introducing digital ad revenue to podcasters. So where we're going with Vodacast now is just kind of expanding that and then continuing to build out the product. Now, as far as the team, I've introduced myself. The CEO is Michael Lawless. He's an Air Force Academy grad. I mentioned I was a West Pointer. We met through an Academy network. Michael's a veteran of many early technology startups. He's worked with Peter Shoebridge, who was our CTO for a number of years, and he brought Peter on as the CTO. Michael was our first hire and has continued to build the team. Brian Hoff is our CFO, and he joined us right after we went public last year. We have an independent board of directors. Steve Deitch was brought on to head the audit committee. He is the CFO of a public company called Paragon 28 and has extensive experience with public companies. Tim Hanlon joined. He's a guru in the digital marketing space or the digital media space as a consultant and a frequent speaker on radio and on television. And Tom Birch is from the broadcast radio space. He's a legend in the space, having founded Birch Scarborough rating system that competed against Nielsen and Arbitron for a number of years. So this is our latest balance sheet at our Q. You can see that we have no debt on the balance sheet, and we have cash left with a quarterly burn of approximately $2 million. So the key takeaways here: we're coming into two big markets with some big industry firsts. Right, we're going after AM/FM radio, giving people an opportunity to avoid commercials and listen to their favorite radio station with complete control for the first time. With podcasting, we're allowing people to go deeper with the audio content, to engage digitally and socially as we move this forward. Both products are highly differentiated. There's nothing really like them out there in their respective spaces, and we have strong IP on the key AI product capabilities for Fader. And both offerings are relevant, addressing very large markets. We have tremendous margins at scale, particularly with Fader, and we have some major near-term catalysts coming up as we report usage data and then subscription to conversion later on in Q3. So that concludes the presentation. Here's the contact information if anybody would like to reach out and contact us with questions. Thank you.